Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bitcoin News Hour, brought to you by Cafe Bitcoin, the most active Bitcoin club on Clubhouse. During the Bitcoin News Hour, we will cover all the latest headlines in Bitcoin. But this isn't your normal network news show where they talk and you just listen. Today's headlines will be presented and discussed by you, the members of Cafe Bitcoin. To participate in the Bitcoin News Hour, simply change your avatar to the headline you'd like to talk about. Today's moderators will then bring you up from the audience. You'll get 1 to 2 minutes to introduce the headline and give everyone the gist of the story. And then everyone will discuss the news before we move on to the next headline. Now, before we get started, do us a favor and click the plus sign at the bottom right of your screen to invite anyone you know who might enjoy this show. And if you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, click on Cafe Bitcoin at the top left and join the club. You can also visit cafebitcoin.club to find our full schedule of events, as well as a fantastic list of beginner Bitcoin resources. And now, get your headlines ready because it's time for the Bitcoin News Hour.
Dun, 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 dun. Man, that gets stuck in my head. All right, folks. I'm not seeing too many headlines down there. This is all about audience participation. We're working together. We're saving time so that we don't all have to comb through and read all the news articles. So do us a favor. Don't be shy. Go find a headline, change your avatar, and raise your hand, and we'll bring you on up. Let's go to, who do we got? T, you want to take it away? Tell us about this.
Sure, yeah. So NYDIG, a pretty big recent name in the Bitcoin custody space is now claiming that hundreds of U.S. banks are going to start offering Bitcoin products to their bank patrons. So I think that's pretty bullish.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's funny, I've seen a lot of people, not Bitcoiners, more shitcoiners, like kind of lampooning this and talking about how Bitcoin's getting captured by the banks, blah, blah, blah. And I tweeted about this earlier. What did I tweet? I said, the banks are not assimilating Bitcoin. Bitcoin's assimilating the banks. I think it's important to kind of understand and note that, Bitcoin doesn't need the banks, but eventually the banks are going to realize they need Bitcoin. And I think we're just starting to see that. Don't know if anyone else wants to comment on this before we move on to the next headline. But
yeah, Regulatory Jason was chatting about this earlier. New York Digital Investment Group is announcing a partnership with Fidelity National Information, I'm not sure who they are, to bring Bitcoin services to hundreds of U.S. banks. The partnership could allow countless customers to buy, hold, and sell Bitcoin through legacy bank accounts. What we're doing is making it simple for everyday Americans and corporations to be able to buy Bitcoin through their existing bank relationships, the head of Bank Solutions told CNBC today. Hundreds of banks are already enrolled in the program, according to the head of the Bank Solutions. The partnership seeks to simplify the process by cutting out middlemen of Bitcoin exchange services. NYDIG will be in charge of Bitcoin custody and trade execution with nearly 300 million checking accounts. The partnership will enable banks to drive fee income and better attract and retain customers. As demand for Bitcoin as a store of value continues to grow, the company is focused on enabling our core banking clients to respond to growing market demand. Really interesting. Yeah, this is a very, very large headline.
Yeah, and I would agree with all that, and then also Brecky's take on it. Bitcoin, the banks can't corrupt it. If anything, Bitcoin's going to assimilate into the banks. It's like that Star Trek character.
yeah, exactly. It's hard for them to, impossible for them to co-opt it at this point. Like, we've seen people try and fail. Like, look at the block size wars. But, it's going to be interesting going forward, especially seeing seeing how they decide to offer Bitcoin and whether they're doing it in a way that actually, is comparable to, what already exists out there. But, there are a lot of people who will decide to, I can get it through the bank that I already have. Why not? But I don't know. We'll keep on promoting self-custody and doing our thing. All right, folks. I'm pulling down to refresh. I'm not seeing any headlines. This is me guilting you. Okay, stop mooching. Go find a headline. Share the headline. Participate. It's actually it's kind of fun. It's nothing to be scared of. Don't be shy.
And T, did you have the Goldman Sachs is using Coinmetrics, Nick Carter's firm, as for their blockchain data now?
Yeah, I did. I just pulled that back up, but I think that's kind of interesting too. The fact that they're dumping so much money into this Bitcoin, data company, maybe in a play to try to be like this the Bitcoin Bloomberg. I don't know.
Yeah, Jamie Dimon hates Bitcoin, yet their actions speak louder than their words by how much money they're pouring into the space right now, right?
Hey, I just wanted to welcome Oliver up to the stage. Thought he might have some nice comments to contribute. We've also got Florida Bitcoin and Mauricio. Sean, did we get to your story? Sorry, let me check. Or not yet?
No, Aaron briefly touched on it when he was reading off the headlines at the start, but basically New York is renewing its commitment to having funds staying poor because they are now introducing proposed legislation that would have a 3-year moratorium on all Bitcoin mining activities in the state of New York. And of course, they're using the standard uses too much energy FUD as their reasoning because it won't allow them to meet the Paris Climate Accords and all their other ESG virtue signaling initiatives. But the fact is that this is the sovereign individual jurisdictional arbitrage thesis playing out to a T, because on the other hand, you have the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, who immediately is tweeting out saying, this is another step by New York in the wrong direction. The city of Miami can mine Bitcoin with clean nuclear energy provided by @Inside FPL. We want to be the crypto mining capital of the world and know it can be done sustainably and also incorporate solar. So it just goes to show you that on the one hand, legislators in New York and states who aren't embracing the Bitcoin mining industry are going to see a brain drain and a capital drain to the states and the jurisdictions that actually are. We know that Texas is huge into this. Miami is going hard. We already know how many people have been moving from San Francisco to Miami and from New York to Texas and all over the place. So another interesting point is that in terms of the taproot signaling, in Marty Bent's newsletter this morning, he spoke about how F2 Pool, which has the most amount of hash rate on that network, has now officially signaled for taproot as well as pooling. And also, F2 Pool, for the first time ever, more Bitcoin hash rate is coming from outside of China than from inside. So the shifting of hash rate out of the centrally controlled area of China historically continues to increase. Now they have more of their hash rate coming from other areas than inside China. And this just goes to show you as well that the decentralization of the mining infrastructure on the ground continues to accelerate. And this is also extremely bullish for the network. By your silence, I assume that you have no comments or questions.
I'm mourning. I'm just mourning New York. Does
Yeah,
anybody believe like in the next decade of New York? Honestly,
well, I actually was wondering if anyone in here lives in New York currently and/or has recently moved from New York for any of these reasons.
I know that there is definitely a lot of people here in Miami, where I'm from, of people that have moved from New York. There's a huge flock of birds coming down that I see new. Mauricio, I noticed you had my Mercado Libre headline, and you're welcome to go for it. I changed mine to talk about a different topic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even notice because I guess it looked so tiny. But yeah, this is literally just the headline, which is the Mercado Libre just added Bitcoin to their balance sheet. And it looks like it's 7.8 million in Bitcoin. And I mean, they recently just announced that they were accepting Bitcoin for some other large purchases or something a couple of weeks ago or whatever. But that's the one headline that I was trying to throw Brecky a bone. So that's the one I came up with.
No worries. Yeah, that's a big one, and I guess it's making the rounds on Twitter now. But I feel like people are kind of sleeping on this. They're like the Amazon down there, right? And contrast this also with like the situation down in Colombia and Venezuela. Like I don't know. Bitcoin is needed down in Latin America now more than ever. We're actually going to be doing a show on this on Friday on Swan Lounge if anyone's interested. But big news.
Yeah, Mercado Libre is big. Publicly traded, symbol is MELI. It's like $80 billion market cap, it looks like. This is a decent purchase. It's a real headline, real purchase by a company with cash on its balance sheet, very little debt. It's a meaningful purchase. It's small, but meaningful. Thought it was cool. Yeah, they're based out of Argentina. They're kind of like, the Amazon of South America, maybe.
Yeah, some cousins use it a lot, so I know it's,
What do you think the purpose of that is? Is that for them to hold that in their own treasury to maybe accept Bitcoin payments? What do you think
It is for its own balance sheet. It said they disclosed a $7.8 million purchase in the first quarter, making it the latest publicly traded company to park Bitcoin on its own balance sheet. Said in the earnings report, the purchase happened in the first quarter and it was part of its treasury strategy.
Hey, I've got a dip in a few minutes, so I'm going to share my headline if that's cool. Basically, we saw today that Galaxy Digital is going to be buying Bitgo for about $1.2 billion in stock and cash. The acquisition comes as Galaxy Digital plans a U.S. listing later this year. What I found kind of interesting about this is that last year they were reportedly in talks with PayPal for a deal, for a buyout for $750 million, and that fell through. So I guess lucky for them that fell through, because now they're getting a cool billion or more.
Yeah, that was a big headline. Galaxy, Mike Novogratz, I think the deal included $230 million or so in cash, but Bitco's a decent. It's a very old company. It's been around, I think, since almost a decade by now. I think it's been around. So very cool to see.
Yeah, one of the largest custodians. All right, folks, I've got to run, but thank you. Just a quick reminder to everyone, we are recording these rooms, and then we repost them up on the Swan Bitcoin YouTube channel if you want to share them with friends or go back and listen. So take care. See you tomorrow.
Cool. Thanks, Becky. Gosh, who is next? Looks like Bitcoin Chris. Did you want to chime in also on your... this is about Grayscale, not Galaxy.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't pinged into the room. Maybe I was driving and didn't see it, but I started another room. I didn't see this room. So, yeah, basically with this headline is that New York Giants becomes the first. Hold on.
I'm not going to steal Chris's thunder, but I've got the same story. So,
okay, yeah, go for it. It looks like his mic or internet.
Yeah, so while he's not here, so Grayscale Investments, best known kind of in this community is for their Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, has partnered with the New York Giants today. It is the first, I'll say, sports-based kind of partnership beyond what FTX did with the Miami Heat arena. So interesting. I think it just provides further exposure. New York Giants are in a premier market, while Grayscale does, have trust for another shitcoin. We're not going to hold that against them. Bitcoin seems to be the big one for them.
Yeah, very cool. Chris, are you around?
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so Bitcoin investment firm Grayscale has partnered with the NFL's New York Giants and will provide cryptocurrency education to personnel. So we all know that very few athletes are adopting Bitcoin and basically taking some in pay. So this is very bullish news for Bitcoin. Grayscale, of course, is buying tons and tons of Bitcoin every day. So that's the article I'll share in the Telegram group for the coordination with the Cafe Bitcoin room. So that's the news.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, guys. And I'm not affiliated with Swan in any way. I just happen to be up here in the left corner for no reason. So I'm not quite sure how to do this, but I guess I will go next to, looks like in the PTR order is Sean. Something about Miami and New York. Or did we already cover the New York headline?
Yeah, I'm good.
Florida?
I did mine. Looks like Florida's next.
All right. Well, I've heard a lot of people talking about banks and custodians and sales forces today. So I just want to remind everybody that proof of keys is not just every January 3rd. Shit, it should be the 3rd of every month. It should be every Thursday. It should be every day. Take control of your own Bitcoin. Just do it, guys. Come on. You know what comes next in this bull cycle. A honeypot's gonna get hit. You're going to fucking cry, and you might get reimbursed in United States dollars years down the road. You will never get your Bitcoin back. Take control of it for yourself. Fuck these banks.
Thanks, Florida. Appreciate that. All right, some flashing mics to applaud that. I totally agree. I'm not sure what the news headline was, but it doesn't really matter because it's something that should be on the top of your mind every day. Own your own keys. Dustin, looks like you are next in PTR order. I'm not sure how to do this, but I guess we go to the next.
You're doing great, Aaron. I love it. The news that I have is that NYDIG announced that they've partnered with a firm to bring Bitcoin to a ton of small banks, apparently. They haven't named the exact banks, but for what it sounds like.
No, Dustin, we covered it earlier, but it's feel free to, kind of encapsulate your thoughts at least on that.
Oh, was it while I was here or before I got in?
It might have been just before you got in, yeah. But go for it again. It's going to be a huge headline. Everyone should know. Everyone should know. If you're new to the room, you should know about this news. So just go ahead and recap it because it's going to be a headline that we'll probably talk about for the next day. It's a very, very.
I'll just make it short then. Basically, this sounds like the first step to a hell of a lot of banks having a buy Bitcoin button on their web services or however they do their banking. So it's going to the masses, and that's freaking huge.
AKA bullish, very bullish news. And yes, Aaron, you're doing a great job. We'll jump down to Ninja.
Thank you. Yeah. And so the piece of information I wanted to bring up today has to do with something that, we often run into in the Bitcoin world, which are scammers. And scammers are now, it's the same trick, just new technology, basically telling people, calling them saying, hey, we need you to send us Bitcoin. And they're using Bitcoin ATMs to do that. The reason I'm bringing this up is because now the FBI is going to start putting warning signs on these Bitcoin ATMs that are found throughout the nation. So just a good reminder to not send anybody Bitcoin unless you personally know them and you're the one initiating that. And just be smart about it. Don't get scammed and don't fall into these traps.
If anybody has naked pictures of you, they're lucky.
That's right. Do not send anybody your Bitcoin because once you send it, it's gone forever. So.
Totally agree. Aaron, it looks like, yeah, we covered you earlier with Grayscale and the New York Giants. Very, very cool. Grace, welcome up on stage. Also, if anyone else wants to cover a headline, feel free to just put that headline as your profile picture. Actually take a screenshot of the headline, put it as your profile picture, and we'll bring you up on stage.
Hi, this is an article published March 30th, so I don't know if someone else has reported on this. But basically, this person thought he went to the App Store and wanted to check his balance. So he downloaded the Treasury app, and it was a fake app. And literally within seconds, he lost his 17.1 Bitcoin, which was worth at the time $600,000. And he thought because it was on the App Store that it was safe, but it was a scam. And I just wanted to report that we all should be very careful what we're downloading, and especially when it comes to handling our Bitcoin.
Awesome headline. I love it, Grace. Yeah, you should only go directly to the manufacturer's website itself. And that manufacturer actually might have a way for you to verify the binary of the software after you download it to make sure that it's a legitimate version. But it's definitely better to go directly to the software versus going to an app store. Yeah, Apple has removed hundreds of fake apps. Just yesterday, I saw that what was ostensibly a children's gaming app was actually a backend for a cryptocurrency casino operation out of Asia that just got shut down yesterday. So these apps can be really problematic. Be really careful about downloading apps. And certainly when it comes to crypto, Bitcoin, you want to go directly to the manufacturer's website.
Real quick on that, Aaron, when you're talking about a Bitcoin, I guess, casino, was that stealing Bitcoin from phones, or this app was used for people to bet on things with their Bitcoin? I'm just trying to understand.
I actually didn't look too far into it. I feel like there's a headline of this every day. I don't know that particular one. I would imagine that it was like using the processing power of the computer to mine, or it was like otherwise data harvesting. I didn't look too much. Cool. So I'm new to this, but it looks like the next person up in PTR order was Allison. Yeah, welcome, Allison.
Oh, yeah. Hi there. Hi, everyone. It just took me a little while to work out how I had to change my profile picture. I managed it, but I think it's pretty small to read the headline. I don't know if any of you can see that.
Yeah, we can see it. That's the beauty of audio. You can just tell us what it is.
Okay, so someone sent this to me today, and it's just an article from a luxury travel magazine that is saying that businesses are now going to be able to accept cryptocurrency to pay for things like travel, private charters. I mean, this is obviously quite high end. It's a company called Arbuthnot, and you can now go on fancy holidays and things by paying with any cryptocurrency, Bitcoin very much included. And to do it, I know none of us are supposed to talk about shit coins or use them or like them, but there is one called, I think it's called You Trust, and you use it to enable you to pay for all these lovely things with Bitcoin. And I think this is quite nice. So when people say to me, oh, Bitcoin's rubbish because you can't buy things with it, well, you can now. You can go on holiday, you can do all these lovely things. So I thought that was quite a neat article.
Yeah, totally. And totally appreciate that there's a bunch of other projects that are trying to carve out their space and raise some money. There's probably little, if any, need to use any other token besides Bitcoin to pay for things. But it's great to see the on-ramps and the merchant solutions come online. So very, very cool.
Yeah.
I will do mine, and then if anyone has a new headline, I'm happy to do that as well. So I just had a headline today about MasterCard. MasterCard is obviously one of the world's two largest credit card processing companies, and they did an online interview of 15,000 of their consumers. There were over 1,000 respondents per country in pretty much the G20. And that survey found that, and I'm just going to read the quote because it's a survey. So consumers are increasingly showing interest. This is according to the MasterCard survey of 15,000 people. Consumers are increasingly showing interest in being able to spend crypto assets for everyday purchases. As global interest in cryptocurrencies as a payment method continues to accelerate, 4 in 10 people, 40%, across North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific say they plan to use cryptocurrency in the next year. Millennials globally, and those, plus Middle East and Africa, are especially engaged in the cryptocurrency conversation, with more than half, 67%, agreeing they are more open to using cryptocurrency than they were a year ago. In addition, 77% of millennials are interested in learning more about cryptocurrencies, and 75% agree they would use cryptocurrency if they understood it better. While consumer interest in cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, is high, work is still required by us to ensure consumer choice, protection, and regulatory compliance. Welcome, Raj. If anyone here at the end of the session has any final headline, feel free to put it as your profile picture. I can bring up on stage. Otherwise, I can go now to Raj.
Hey guys, so this is an article from the Motley Fool, which is one of the biggest sort of investment, retail-oriented investment websites. So it's a pretty balanced article, and I was really surprised to see the coverage. It's very nice. So this is an actively managed JPMorgan fund, and this is not confirmed. The journalist is basing it on consistent and credible sources, according to her. So, what's happening now is that it's a Bitcoin fund. It's actively managed, and the fact that JP Morgan is doing it after doing the 180-degree, if you look at the statements of their CEO over the years, it's a very positive news, and it's likely to come in sometime this summer, and it's different from ETFs. And things like Grayscale. So this is going to bring a lot more credibility, and people who are uncomfortable buying on exchanges in the traditional investment world, there is so many of them. They are going to be able to access it through JP Morgan's fund. Obviously, it's for us, it's not something that we're likely to use unless it's one of the options where Bitcoin is directly not allowed to be purchased, such as 401ks, etc. So it's a Bitcoin-specific fund. It is unprecedented because there is no other vehicle like it, and it's not an ETF. And I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that something nice is happening. The article is pretty balanced. I recommend everyone check it out. Just Google some of the words in the headline. You'll get it.
Yeah, and one point you wanted that you kind of brought up. So do you see this comparable to GBTC? Is that sort of what they're mimicking there? Because it's not an...
GBTC is a trust, and it's a closed-end trust. So that's not really what this fund is. They haven't given any details, but it is an actively managed fund, so it's different from a trust, and it's different from an ETF. What the article is saying is that it's like any other actively managed fund. Now, whether it will perform better than just buying an ETF or buying Bitcoin directly, that depends on the skill of the managers. And as we know, in Bitcoin, price is very hard to predict. So you're taking that little bit of risk if you are getting into it. So there aren't that many details available. I'll keep an eye out for any concrete information that comes out.
Thanks for sharing. It's stuff like this that makes me really excited about the future of Bitcoin. And I think for the average person who maybe hasn't had anything to see these larger names and institutions get more.
Totally agree. All right. Well, Chris, I know that you have changed your profile picture to Mercado Libre.
Yeah, did you guys? Yeah, you guys cover this?
Yeah, we covered it. Nice headline:
No
80 billion market cap company adding 7.8 million in Bitcoin to its treasury reserve asset line on its balance sheet, which is probably more than double that nowadays because they purchased it in the first quarter. A very cool headline to see. And it looks like we got one more here on stage about PayPal. Do you want to go with?
Hi, so not much to do with crypto actually. PayPal just posted some record numbers in growth in terms of revenues and user growth. Besides that, they've also gone into cryptos, as in now US customers can purchase crypto through their app, and they're also enabling it with merchants, or so the news goes. So probably there's some commerce opportunity over there.
Yeah, I think that plays into why we're seeing banks wanting to get into Bitcoin now, and cryptocurrencies as well. But Bitcoin, I know that they've been seeing the numbers, and once they see that PayPal has been, when they saw Square's numbers, because Square's been making a lot of revenue ever since, and all they did was add Bitcoin, because Cash App only has Bitcoin on there. So once they saw the numbers, this is why these banks want to start to get in now. This is why PayPal jumped in. So we're going to start to see the dominoes fall, and more and more companies accepting Bitcoin and offering Bitcoin services and crypto as well. But we all know Bitcoin is king. So if you guys have not, please make sure you go up to the top, click the square house, and make sure you join the club for Cafe Bitcoin. Every day at 5, we actually do the Bitcoin News Hour, and it is recorded. So if anyone else has a headline, we can bring you up on stage, or
can we hear T's headline? He changed it there.
Yeah, I got it here if you guys don't mind. So this one was from Bitcoin Magazine. Bitcoin miners brought in more than $56 million on average per day in mining rewards, dollar denominated. I think that's pretty interesting. I think that's that's a big security spend. The network is in terms of fees and Coinbase rewards. These miners are getting handsomely paid to secure and support the network. So I think that amount of incentive is quite a bit of a bounty that I think more and more energy companies are going to want to go after. So I think it's pretty noteworthy. Despite competition being at all-time highs and hash rate being at all-time highs, security spend is also near all-time highs as well. So.
Yeah, and it's awesome just in terms of the actual amount that miners getting paid for their hash rate. There's a great website called hashrateindex.com, and you can see the historical graph of the price of hash rate per terahash. And just for example, at the beginning of the year in January, miners were getting on average about 20 cents per terahash per day. That peaked out on April 21st at 41 cents per terahash per day, and now we're sitting down around 38 cents per terahash per day. So overall revenues has doubled in 2021 so far, and miner profitability is in a golden era right now just because hash rate hasn't climbed as fast as the price has climbed. So we're loving it. It's bullish.
Right, Sean, may I just ask, it might sound like a dumb question. So, it is profitability, right? Since the other side does not vary, right? Your electrical costs and other costs remain while they got in the revenue, that has increased for sure. The profitability, does that mean that the profitability has increased because the other things remain constant in price, the spends or expenditure?
Generally speaking, as long as your costs were the same at the beginning of the year, your profitability absolutely has almost doubled because
so basically
the
this means that
has gone up so much, right?
Right. It might sound like I said, might sound like a dumb question, but their expenditure would take electricity being their expenditure primary, the main running one.
Yeah, primarily if your
fixed
costs are your electricity, then and hopefully you were on a fixed rate contract and it's the same as the beginning of the year, right? Then that's where you're making your profit.
All right. Well, Chris, did you want to have any final comment, or do you want me to kind of summarize the news and we can wrap up for the day? We're 45 minutes in.
Yeah, if we don't have any more news, then yes, you can do a quick wrap up and then we can end the room. Wait, we have another. I see someone down in the audience. Miguel, do you want to come up?
Hi guys.
Hi, Miguel. Welcome.
Hey, thanks. Hey, this may not be 100% related to Bitcoin, but tomorrow is World Password Day, and the article talks about ways that to basically think about what passwords you use. I got some pretty interesting stats here that they put out. Like it says, for example, about 80% of data breaches in 2019 were caused by password compromises. It talks about top 5 most popular passwords. At least 65% of people reuse passwords across multiple sites. 13% of people use the same password for all passworded accounts and devices. 42% of companies were breached by bad password. So, everybody talks about securing their Bitcoin and all that, but going back to the basics, tomorrow's password day, you may want to think about, using a password manager, and rethink your password. And that's basically all I got. Sorry, guys. It's long-winded.
Well, yeah, we can link that into your seed phrase, right? So we should make a national seed phrase day where you make sure you have your seed phrase in a couple different places. It's secure, you know it, or you just have it so that way you know you're safe. So we definitely need to practice that. It's a good reminder not only for passwords, it's also we can correlate that with your seed phrases to access your Bitcoin at any time, even if you lose your cold wallet. So I think that's still a great point that we can tie into Bitcoin.
Yeah, as you know, that a certain amount of people don't have, cold storage yet. A lot of people are relying on their phones and their passwords to get into their Bitcoin, on different.
Absolutely. So it's always good to have more than what I always do is for my seed phrase for my green wallet that I use on my phone, because I have several wallets. So for my green wallet, everyone should also do this. And there's other ways to do it. This is just one way. I write down my seed phrase on 3 different binders, or even 4 or 5 different binders, or inside 3 different binders, or 4 or 5 of them, or just a piece of paper, or a titanium card as well. So there's a couple different things you can do, but make sure you get a couple of them, 5 of them, 6 of them, 3 of them, and you put them in different places. So I have one, just say for an example, at my grandma's house. I have one at a wherever else you want to put it, and then I have one where I live and stuff. So I always know I have 3 different backups, or 4 different backups, or 5 different backups of my seed phrase, just in case. Life happens, guys, and if you lose your seed phrase, your Bitcoin is gone forever. So it's a big deal. So you guys should definitely treat it like a big deal and secure.
Well, your phone is a little bit better, more secure than you. Did you guys hear about NYDIG, the company? They're saying that the United States banks will soon be able to buy, hold, sell Bitcoin through their existing accounts. So the customers will be able to do that without exchanges. You guys?
Yeah, we covered it a couple of times, but it's going to be a big headline. Good to reiterate. That's going to be the headline of the day, probably. So, yep. Thanks for repeating it. Luis, I think, is a new one on stage regarding Colombia. Did you want to talk?
Yeah, I just wanted to. First off, I wanted to double check because something I've been waiting for years is when banks are going to be able to work with Bitcoin. Can somebody tell me where that article may have come from? I'd like to learn about it.
Yeah, sure. It came from there was a interview today with a banking analyst on CNBC. So the original source is CNBC.com. And actually, the television show. But
sorry, there's a jet. 1 second, please.
Yeah, I believe it was something like a 20-minute segment with the head of business something over there that was on CNBC today.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to just, check with anybody else if they've been through a similar experience. Colombia is going through something very tragic and horrible over the last 18 hours, if you guys haven't caught up on that. It's getting to the point where the police officers are actually breaking into homes and murdering children who are protesting. It's getting that bad. Side note, though, they're evacuating, and they're going to evacuate continuously because it's getting that bad. I used to help a couple, I would call them associates, not necessarily friends. There was an app called Local Bitcoins, or a website, where I would help them attain Bitcoin because they didn't have the ability to. And they would send me money via whether it was Western Union or whatever it was. But the local Bitcoin system was allowing me to have this medium of exchange for money for Bitcoin. And I was just trying to, help them out because I spoke Spanish and I had a couple friends out there. Has anybody been in a situation like that where they were able to communicate with another country that was almost becoming refugee status, where you guys were able to educate them on Bitcoin so they could convert their local currency into Bitcoin and evacuate? I see this as a use case that saves lives, basically, being able to hide their money and get out of Dodge, for lack of a better pun. Any ideas? Anybody know any stories?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stories like that. Actually, other countries, especially in South America, we don't have to explain Bitcoin to them. They understand it because they are dealing with what you're talking about right now. They're dealing with hyperinflation. They're dealing with a corrupt government, or more corrupt government than we are. They're dealing with all these different problems, and they understand the power of Bitcoin. So I know majority of them do understand Bitcoin and do know the power of it. I'm sure there's still a gap and people need to be educated, but there's not like this. We sit on here and like harass people, not harass, but we basically just try to implore and just educate so many people about Bitcoin in America. I feel we're so spoiled. It's hard for them to grasp like the true power and the true reason why it's the best digital currency that we've ever had on the face of the planet ever in history. But when you go to these countries where people are having all these problems, they understand it like that. There's no issues. They know what's going on and it's real to them. So I feel like there's several countries that are in that same kind of position. Nigeria, for an example, and plenty of other places. But Colombia, I didn't know that. So thanks for sharing that news.
Yeah, Luis, local Bitcoins was the one that came to mind, which you thought of the largest peer-to-peer exchange, but there probably are others. If I was going to search, I would probably start searching like local Bitcoins, Colombia, peer-to-peer, offline, and just see where that takes me. There might be another company that's doing some big services down there.
Hodl, isn't it?
Hodl, yep.
You have access to that, Luis?
I've never heard of it. That's very...
Yes. But you were saying something about protest? What protest in Colombia?
In Colombia, there's a protest going on right now currently, and it got so bad with the people that are protesting against the government. The police officers were literally breaking into homes, identifying those that were protesting and murdering them. This happened today, last night.
Yeah, there's a fiscal reform, tax reform, and in the midst of that, there's been a week of protests.
Why are they against government?
Become pretty violent. I think several dozen people have already died, unfortunately. All right, so I think that covers all the headlines of the day. Just to recap, according to MasterCard, 40% of its users say they plan to use cryptocurrency in the next year. T spoke about Bitcoin mining profitability and revenue increasing. Bitcoin Chris and several others. I think also B or others were talking about the Mercado Libre, the $80 billion Amazon of Argentina, adding in the first quarter $7.8 million of Bitcoin to its balance sheet as a treasury reserve, which probably is higher right now that Bitcoin's price has gone up. Sean and several others talked about cryptocurrency mining operations in New York being subject to a 3-year pause if a bill introduced in the Senate is approved. Florida talked about making sure that you keep your own keys securely. Great reminder to always keep your passwords and seed phrases secure. Ninja was talking about ATM scammers and also dovetailing into Grace's story about an Apple App Store app that wasn't actually secure. Make sure that you use good technology and that you're not being scammed. Raj talking about the development of JPMorgan's new Bitcoin fund. Luis talking about Colombia, peer-to-peer, crypto needs, and the escalating tensions there. And Miguel talking about password security day and making sure, again, that you secure your own passwords in Bitcoin. It looks like that's probably good for the day. We're coming up in the hour. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks for bearing with me, as I've never done this before. And hopefully this was informative.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, everyone.
Hallelujah. Good job, Aaron. See you guys tomorrow for the recording of the Bitcoin News Hour.
What a show, folks! Thank you to everyone who contributed and to everyone who listened in. Don't forget to join Cafe Bitcoin by clicking on Cafe Bitcoin at the top left of your screen. And remember to find our full schedule of events at cafebitcoin.club. We hope to see you again next time for the Bitcoin News Hour.